Whoa, we're an upset meter. We're an upset meter. 5 out of 24 of these teams have gone on to lose. And why is that impressive? Because what are the rules for upset meter, CD?
Oh, you have to be a 10-point or more favorite. We go in and we get surgical. We pick out games. We identify games that we think, maybe could be interesting. Come second half, right? You could be sweating out. Or maybe it's like, we're not worried at all. And so we pick out these four teams. These are four favorites on the screen right now. If you listen on Spotify, I'm sorry, but if you're on YouTube, see the nice graphic. It's Oklahoma, Clemson, South Alabama, and Liberty, respectively. And we will go through and tell you how we're feeling about them.
Yeah, and look, our average spread for these games is about 13 points. So the odds will tell you that that's about the team will have about an 86% chance of winning that game, right? Which leaves our underdogs a 14% chance of winning. So the fact that we're picking at about 22, 23%, I like it. I think we're doing okay here. I think we're doing okay. But yeah, the four teams featured, like you said, Oklahoma, Clemson, South Alabama, Liberty. And what is the scale we use? Cold, mild, sweating, steaming, piping. Pretty self-explanatory. Pretty self-explanatory. Uh, the hottest being piping, meaning, yeah, it's going to happen. Cold, meaning, yeah, it's not going to happen. We have not had a piping this year, for the record. These are all 10-point spreads. I mean, it's got to be a game to have piping. But our steaming team last week, Washington State, caught an L. One
Yeah,
of two teams with a 10-point favorite, or one of two favorites with a 10-point spread that lost last week. We had them in steaming. So I think we've been doing a pretty decent job with this. Of course, if you throw enough rocks at a barn, you're going to hit it, right? But I have fun with this. I like this segment. I like it gives us a chance to talk about some more games too, maybe some under the radar ones, some games that are more under the radar because of how big the spread is. But yeah, Oklahoma, Oklahoma. Who is
playing
Oklahoma
host,
playing?
playing host to West Virginia, the fighting
West
Garrett Greens,
Virginia,
man.
huh? West Virginia. If
Neil
you were telling me
Brown.
before the season that Garrett Riley, or sorry, forget Riley, Garrett Green is playing like one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12, I would have said you're absurd. I would have said you're absurd. Oklahoma, kind of on the decline right now. Now, granted, West Virginia's secondary, very exposable. What did we say about last week, Oklahoma State? That secondary is also very exposable. Kansas's defense, their secondary, very exposable. So back-to-back weeks, you had a tough time exposing the secondary. Even against Texas, Dylan Gabriel relied on his legs to win that game. I don't hate West Virginia in the spot to pull off an upset against Oklahoma.
I
I
really don't.
mean,
I do think Garrett Green. I'll get the other side here. I think Garrett Green and Donaldson they can move the football. They can move the football
yeah,
on Oklahoma. I really do. I thought I was really impressed with them last week. Just handling BYU from the jump. Didn't even matter. Didn't even let them have a chance. Devin Carter's coming on strong. Garrett Green, we said, was continuing to play well.
that
Kobe
offensive
Taylor's there as
line.
well. The O line. Oh, they got two running backs. They really like White and Donaldson. Like Gallagher, the freshman, gets involved as well. This is a good team. This is not the West Virginia of the past couple of years. This is not your average Neil Brown's West Virginia.
I
This
have
is
I have I have this in sweating. This
yeah,
is sweating for me.
without a doubt. And I think Oklahoma, they're I wouldn't call them in wounded animal mode. Like they're kind of
They're
their
done.
hopes of winning. It's kind of done.
It's not over. Actually, it's not over. I should not say it's over. It's not over.
But I do think they're pretty upset. And obviously like they can react one of two ways. I assume they'll play pretty well. I don't think they're gonna just mail it in. Like that doesn't happen really in college football. Like these guys get 4 years to play football for the schools they love, and like they're gonna do it to the best of their abilities. I do think it helps. They're coming back home after a road stint that was not good to them at Kansas, Oklahoma State. Does help, but I do think like West Virginia, man, they're good. They're just a good football team. They've got really
I
good losses, by the way. And Penn State, Oklahoma State is a buzzsaw right now. And then at Houston with the Hail Mary, like that was just weird all around. It's like a Friday night game or Thursday night game. It was just tough. But
Dana Holgerson, job saver.
yeah, Regardless, I think West Virginia comes to play here. I'm not gonna pick them straight up, but I do think like, yeah, sweating is exactly what it is.
Yeah, I agree. And let's talk about Clemson next. Who's Clemson playing?
Only the most confusing team in college football right now.
Only the they're Clemson plays Georgia Tech for the record at
Yeah,
home.
I'm sorry, I should have made that.
At
Yes,
home. But Georgia Tech they're so confusing because they will play absolutely abysmal and they will lose to Bowling Green and come out the next week and beat a top 25 Miami team. And then
they will.
they're like, oh wait, we're not done. Let's go beat North Carolina, right? I mean, who was also on this upset meter that week. So Georgia Tech, they could lose by 40, but you have to put them on this meter because they could pull off this upset. So that's why I have this one like in mild. Actually, I have it like low mild, because I think Clemson kind of got right there after Notre Dame. I think they're like physical enough to where like they kind of handle this Georgia Tech team. I don't think Miami played physical enough against Georgia Tech. Well, Miami should have won that game. I mean, realistically, right? Uh, I do think North Carolina did not play physical enough. I think this is a more physical team that I think will give Georgia Tech problems.
Yes, yeah, I do. I do think so. I was really impressed with Clemson last week. Obviously, Georgia Tech was also impressive in their own right, and like beating a team, finally beating a team that they should have beaten in Virginia. I say that jokingly, but like you said, it's been a roller coaster of a year there, especially for Haynes King. Like I will say, like there's been more ups and downs. I've been pleasantly surprised with how well he's worked out there with Brent Key and staff. I do think Eric Singleton Jr., like the freshman, he's done well. Dominic Balak, like there's some guys there. Christian Leary, some speed there. Like it's an explosive offense, and they put up numbers against teams. I do think Clemson's got a really good defense. I do think like teams and like situations that hurt Clemson, like namely like fourth down and goal line, like turnover opportunities. I do think like Georgia Tech's not the team to expose that in them, if that makes sense.
I
And I
agree.
that's why yeah, I agree. I will say I will ask you this though here. Who do you take quarterback? Hayes King or Cade Klubnik?
That's a fantastic question because I've never been on the Cade Klubnik train. And in that quarterback class, I think it's very clear who the best quarterback in that class was. And it's not Cade Klubnik. And we thought Garrett Riley might, bring up. Now, granted, Antonio Williams, Bo Collins, are these number one receivers at a lot of other schools? No. If you had brought in some transfers to help out Cade Klubnik, I could see Cade like he makes pretty special plays at times. You can kind of see it. But this is a team that has relied heavily on their ground game the last 2 years with Cade Klubnik at quarterback. Uh, and I do think like this Clemson team, if they like, is it crazy to think that if DJU was here with Garrett Riley, that Clemson would have more wins than they do?
No. I I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's the reason. I
I
wouldn't
think you
point
can make
at
the argument.
Klubnik
I think you can make the argument.
for sure.
Uh, I'm not gonna say, oh, if this then that. Like I'm not gonna play that game, but it definitely seems like one player's playing significantly better since he's left Clemson, and then the other one's still struggling at times. Right, but
Yes,
yeah,
I will
with that,
say,
yeah. With that being said, this is a low mild for me for sure.
yeah, real quick to add an injury report there because with lines and upsets, like injuries sometimes matter in these games. Will Shipley, we were a little surprised he didn't show up against um Notre Dame last week. He has a concussion still. He's been practicing. He's trending up right now. Dabo Swinney thinks he will play. Antonio Williams is getting better, but probably will be out again. RJ Mickens, same thing. He's close, but might be out. It's a beat up secondary with Sheridan Jones and Jalen Phillips both out. Right. Like if you're Hayes King, you have a chance here to make some plays. But like we said, like we believe this is at home. Clemson gets right here
Yeah,
again.
I think so too. South Alabama. Uh, Carter Bradley likely not playing this game. Gio Lopez. You know what I like about Gio Lopez?
Everything.
Everything. That guy just screams Sunbelt quarterback, and I love it. He's mobile, he's agile, mobile, and hostile. Lefty gunslinger. I watched him last week in his first career start. Right now with Carter Bradley out. he made some incredible plays and throws. They couldn't put the ball in the end zone for whatever reason. Like they were in that ball game with Troy. Where you're looking at a guy who took Troy right in that game. So I was pleasantly surprised when that fourth quarter rolled around and Troy all of a sudden put the hammer down on them. Kind of risky. But who was South Alabama playing this week? Oh, that's right. A wagon of a team
Oh,
coached by none other than a stud that he is, Butch Jones. So Alabama's playing Arkansas State. And this line is over 10. Is that 10 and a half? 11? 11 and a half? Oh, they're
12.
looking at the line. What?
You can get a 12 out there
Oh,
if
boy.
you're
That's
Arkansas
so
State.
enticing. So enticing. Yeah, this Arkansas State team is playing really good football. And they have a chance to make a bowl game. After getting annihilated the first couple games, Jalen Maynard comes in. Now, has Jalen Maynard come back to earth? Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. But they're winning ball games. That Louisiana defense is a good defense. And they put up 37. The only team that Jalen Maynard has looked legitimately like a freshman quarterback is against Troy.
Yeah.
And pretty much almost everyone has, right? But Gio Lopez looked good. Gio Lopez looked good against him, right? Colin Lacey, dude, he's a really good ball player. Now he had a gigantic drop in that, like late in that game, that potentially would have given them a chance to score and uh, tie the ball game up in the fourth quarter. He's still a really good player. He's like second in the country in receiving yards. I mean, just a good ball player. They're well coached. They're at home, I believe. Uh, they're at home, right?
Yes.
So I put this in mild. I put this in mild because I liked what I saw from Gio Lopez. He's mobile, right? And of course, Webb is a great running back as well. They have a good ground game. They're pretty balanced attacking the ball offensively. And against bad defenses, South Alabama has made those defenses pay this year. Just as Southern Miss, they have made them pay. That's not to say they're on this list though because I like Arkansas State. I think if you're listening to the show long enough, I think you know that we like Arkansas State this year. We were on them way early. We were on them way early when the switch got made. So I do think this could happen, but I'm gonna put it in mild. Would you agree on that?
I would too. I do think like you said, Gio Lopez, dog. We love that. I will say like a misconception in college football is like backup quarterbacks. If you're not like elite, like and yes, like Bradley's he's a stud, right? He's a stud for South Alabama and the Sun Belt there. Like there is sometimes over adjustment on lines and like in Vegas, like you can find value in backup quarterbacks, right? We've seen it time and time again. I do think at home he comes back home, not facing a Troy defense. Like this is a nice. I do think him lazy. Like they will get going with Darius Webb. Um, yeah, I think this and this game matters. Like if you say like it don't matter, like this game matters for both these fan bases, both these schools. Like both these guys are trying to make a bowl game,
Yeah,
right? Like
fighting
Arkansas
for a bowl
State
game.
fight. Yeah, Arkansas State
Winner of
has
this
a
game
tough
goes to a bowl game, right? Winner of this game becomes bowl eligible.
probably. As South Alabama has Marshall. They both play Marshall, so you'd think you get a chance to get a win there. But yeah, South Alabama is at 4-5 right now. They need to win two more games, and they still have to finish the season at Texas State. So like, this is a huge game
Mm-hmm.
for them, and I do think there's a reason they're 12.5 point favorites or 12 point favorites, and like, I think it's gonna pay out.
I agree. Last one. Let's talk Liberty. Liberty baby. Uh, reason why I'm gonna put him in steaming because Old Dominion is not terrible,
They're
and
feisty.
Liberty has not played a lot of not terrible this year. Jason Henderson, who we talked about earlier on the show, one man wrecking crew that is that linebacker at Old Dominion is a madman, right? Liberty is the number one rushing team in the country, right? If they can't run the ball, then what are they? Right? Caden Salden can throw the ball a little bit. I'm not gonna say that he can't, right? But Jamie Chadwell wants to run the ball. If Jason Henderson and his wrecking crew at Old Dominion can get after that rushing attack, and he can have another game there 22 total tackles. Uh, I don't know. This line's at what, like 13 and a half, and I think a lot of people expected that to be more. I just think Liberty has not had a lot of challenges this year. It's going to come somewhere. I think there's a really good chance that it comes this week. Just got a feeling, man. I just got a feeling.
This is an awesome, by the way, out of conference game. Like, if you're not like I kind of was like, wait a minute, they're not in the same conference. Liberty's in the CUSA, Old Dominion's in the Sun Belt, right? Obviously, so it doesn't matter conference standing wise, but I know Ole Miss would love to knock off Liberty. They're a feisty team. You do not blow this team out. You really don't. And like feisty games, like it, if you leave them in there, like I think Liberty, like you said, they haven't really been tested that much this year, right? Like if you get them in the corner, right, who knows what can happen in that game? I do think this could be steaming, or it can be right there for Liberty. I'm not going to put them on fraud alert. I'm not. I believe in Jamie Chadwell. Salter's a stud. I think has some great backs. Like this is a good roster, but I do think like the CUSA is pretty bad. Their schedule's been even worse. I think I don't think it's crazy to say that this might be one of the best teams they've played all year. At 4-5 Old Dominion. I think they might be, to be honest. Like this is a this is a really super intriguing game. Doesn't matter a ton standing wise. We know that, but it's college football. Everything matters. These fan bases, these players, these coaches, it all matters, man. Like I know Liberty would
Yeah,
love to go 12-0, and I know Old Dominion would love to get the bowl eligibility. Right, they're 4-5. They're fighting for bowl eligibility. Like this game matters.
yeah. Old Dominion's losses, by the way, a loss to Virginia Tech week 1 of the season, a close loss to Wake Forest, where Wake Forest came back from behind, outscored them 27-7 in the second half, right? And then they lost to a Marshall team. Marshall's terrible, by the way. They're terrible, but they didn't have Grant Wilson. They didn't have Grant Wilson that game.
Yep.
So
And
and he
she
that's a
she
big
also
deal.
for 95 yards in that game.
And three picks in that game. And they still almost won that game. James Madison, they came back in that game. And they had a chance to win that game. Coastal Carolina, they should not have blown that game. So like Old Dominion has been frisky in a lot of these games. They're pretty decent. If Grant Wilson can play at that level, have one of his classic 109, a buck 90 and 3 touchdowns, right? And Jason Henderson can make some stuff happen on defense. I think they could pull this off. Throw them there, right there in steaming. So to recap, Liberty we have in steaming, Oklahoma we have in sweating, South Alabama we have in mild, and same with Clemson. We have South Alabama a little bit more mild than, or sorry, a little bit, I guess a little hotter than Clemson. I guess we think Clemson should get right here against Georgia Tech.